Hey everyone, this is Anna here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I sculpt the cute little fox that I've shown before. These with the luminary. I posted, I believe, was a short earlier, couple of weeks ago or 2 or 3 weeks ago on how I made this luminary that I was gonna have a live video or a tutorial on this, and I didn't attach the fox, but I could still do it on my next glaze firing, but it goes like this in here. And basically I'm going to divide this tutorial into 2 parts because it would be way too long. So today I'm going to show how I sculpt the fox, and also I had another piece that I used the cute little fox inside of this cup. Let's see if I can, right there. I always have a hard time with the camera showing the because it's backwards. Oh gosh. There you go. There she is. So this one is a cup I made for my daughter that I decided to put the fox inside, and it wasn't meant for stirring because I know I've had some questions about that because my daughter doesn't drink like coffee or any hot beverage, so this is for cold beverages. So you can still do that and use like any kind of sculpture inside. It's still food safe, microwave safe, you know, all that stuff. So I am going to show you how I sculpt these today, starting with like a basic steps, like on how I do almost like a deconstructing the sculpture. The way I look at it is I go by in parts. I separate into parts. So I sculpt the head, the body, the tail. Let me make this a little bigger. I'm trying a new setup here for my live streaming live with my new camera. So anyways, that's what I do. I do the tail separate, and then I'll show you how I attach everything together. So I'm going to zoom in and we'll talk a little bit about what materials you're gonna use, and if you want to, you can just try to do it with me live today, so you can ask me any questions you want. And let me take myself out of the way. Okay, so the way I have my setup here is the camera is in front of me so that I can really show you the way I see it. And I'm hoping that the lighting will be okay. So I'm using, the clay I'm using is White Bear and Iceman by Kentucky Mud Works, which is a really good clay for sculpting or attachments, hand building. And I think I've said that before on my videos, on some of my previous videos. So the sculpting tools that I use, and you don't have to have, and I'll talk about it, the tools that I have. You can use basic tools. So my basic tools that I still use, and I always tell people, I will put a link later on once my video is uploaded. I'll put a link under the description of all these tools that I use. These are very inexpensive fondant tools. It comes on a set of 6, I believe, but I still use them. The only thing is it is plastic, so it sticks a little bit more to the clay, but I like because it has the rounded pieces on the edges, on the bottom here, on the edge. And then it has like all these little smoothing. You can use these for smoothing the joints. This here comes to a point, so I'm gonna use these two. You want to use a brush. Doesn't have to be a good brush. It's just to smooth out wherever you're using your fingers too much and it's got too much texture that you don't want. You can smooth out the surface with a brush. You can use basic wooden tools. They are really good because they won't, you know, stick as much as the plastic. So if you have wooden tools, they're great for sculpting. I use a carving tool just for carving out the clay to make it hollow inside, especially inside of the head, which I started with a solid piece and then I just carve. Because it's so small, I carve using something like this, or you can actually use any kind of carving tool, something like this, you know, just to remove the clay. See what else. I use these clay shapers, I think is what they call. They're rubber tip shapers that come in different stiffness type, depending on the rubber color that you see, the rubber material, or silicone, I believe. So this white one is really soft, and then the black one is a little harder, and I believe there is a blue one that is more like a medium type stiffness, but you can see this one bends, and then this one is pretty stiff. You're gonna need a X-Acto knife to trim things at the end. I like using this dowel with the two spheres at the ends. I may not use here for the fox. I'm not sure if I use that or not, but I use these mostly to do the socket of my animals or whatever creatures I make. Like for the frogs, I make the eye socket. I think these are used for like dolls, doll making. They come in all different sizes. It's a set. So if you don't use that, you can just use your fingers or use one of these, the plastic ones. It works just as well. This one is just a wiring tool for just scoring the clay and for attachments. I use these a lot too. And one of these you don't have to use that, but let me see if I can just clean that real quick. It has like a real curved edge, so it would be very similar to this, the plastic one, as you can see, except that this is metal and it costs a lot more. And then on the other end it has almost like a little knife, but it's not sharp, so you can use it to make indents on the clay. So like I said, you can use pretty much any carving tools that you have on hand. It would work. And then I'll show you the amount of clay that I'm using. And also what I like to do, I like to have, I didn't print out, but I'll show you on my phone, a picture of a fox sitting. Usually you want the position that you want to sculpt. So mine is, I don't know if you can see because of the glare here, but it's sitting sideways. So that's what I use as a reference. I had some that I printed out and I just couldn't find it, and I ran out of, it gets pretty expensive if you're going to be printing color. And I did have some, like I said, I did have some that I printed and I just couldn't find it. So for this tutorial. So the pieces of clay, so like I said, this one I'm gonna be using is Iceman. For the head, it's maybe about an inch ball like this. And for the body, maybe a piece about this big, which is like maybe 2.5 inches. This one will probably be a little bit bigger than the one I just showed, than this one here. So anyways, we'll start with the head, which is a little bit more difficult. And the way I start doing is, you want to start with the oval. So I had it as like a ball shape, and I'm just gonna start squishing a little bit to make almost like an oval shape. And that is because the fox has these wider areas here on the sides. If you can see. And it's, you know, later on, what I do is after I shape everything, I do some carving also once the clay is leather hard, and that's when you can add some of the texture for, you know, to look like the fur. So it may look kind of rough on the beginning. So you have it as an oval shape, and then you start squeezing almost to make the snout, I guess, for the fox, and the nose, and then where the eyes are gonna go. But you start elongating this part, and you're gonna need water. And if this is your first time sculpting, don't panic if it start looking, because mine even looks like that sometimes when I'm just starting out sculpting it and shaping. It sometimes looks more like an alien, and that's okay. Don't panic. So the head is a little bit kind of flattish at the back, and then I'm still elongating this part here. I'll have mine right here in front of me. So one thing I do, the first thing is kind of determine what that white fur that they have goes on the sides, which makes their face kind of almost like the cheeks, like right here. So I start going like this to form that area where usually it's like a white fur. If you're making like a red fox, they have the white fur all through here, and then through the chest as well, and then the rest would be like red. So you just start pushing the clay that way out to form that type of fur on the head, like that. Then I'm gonna just put a little water to make a little indent where the eyes will go, which is right there. And this right now is very skinny, and I'll show you how to fix that, where the nose is gonna go. And then this one, you push it up a little. So right now I have my camera in front of me, and I'm trying to look over the camera here. So for this is the body. So I usually keep my clay on a bag, on a Ziploc bag, so it doesn't dry, where I can keep taking pieces as we're adding pieces to it. So right here, what I do is I put 2 little balls of clay. Let's see, while the clay is wet. Because the muzzle or snout, I don't know what you call it, but it's kind of, if you look closely, it has almost like 2 little cheeks here. And then you blend in. Then you can shape it a little bit better. I'm just using water right now. And then the bottom part of the mouth is a little smaller than the top part. So right now I haven't put the nose yet. I'm just making those little cheeks that they have right here. And then you can define the mouth with anything, any pointy edge, just so you know whereabouts you're doing where the mouth is going to be. So it will be like right there. And then I try to make these just a little bit smaller by removing some of the clay like that. That's the bottom part of the mouth. And then the nose is gonna go right there in the middle. And like I said, right now we're just putting like blocks of clay before we shape everything. Because when it's too wet, it's kind of hard to get everything just perfect. Not perfect, but more refined. So now I put the nose in. And it has like a triangular shape, like that. Just so you mark the shape a little bit. And then you can push that, blend the top part with the rest of the snout. Like that. So that's the difference on the fox as, let's say, to a dog. They have this very elongated snout, I guess, I would say. And maybe I will make these a little bit more pronounced, where the head is a little bit skinnier here on the top. And that way you're making this more pronounced on the sides. And then you can use an edge, a pointy edge like this, or you can use a wooden tool like, what is the other one that I said? You can use something like this just to mark the eyes. And then you can add some more volume here to the eye, like for the eyelids. And you have to be looking straight on, otherwise it won't look right. is, I know some people have asked me that question too, how I get it symmetrical, and you just have to look straight on. So right now I'm just carving here. It's always good to add some water too, just to smooth everything out, and then you can see it a little bit better. Like I said, I think the head, because of all the features, is the hardest thing to do. So we try to get the hardest part done. I think the body is easier. Again, everything is still very rough. This part here has a little dividing area right here before it goes to the mouth, like that. So at this point, like I said, the clay is still very wet. So what I am going to do though is push a little bit of clay down just to make a little bit of the eyelid come down a little bit. Same thing on the other side. Let me look at my reference here. It's amazing how this can change the look of your animals, is the expression, I would say. When you start doing the eyes, you can really tweak this part and spend more time on it to really see, just experiment and have fun, you know, to see the change on the look of the animal. So then here I go for the eye, I go in a little bit towards the nose, like an indent, like that. Now remember here, there is also the same thing I talked about here, that they have like some fur, like going, you know, this way and this way. There's also in here. That's why this one is like a little taller, and that you do it with the carving later on. I'm just showing a little bit here, so you get an idea right here on the head, kind of like it's gonna be in between the 2 ears right here. So so now you get just a small piece of clay, something like this size, to make the ears. I just, you know, it's a triangular shape, so you just press, and I try to make it the same size, so I'm gonna press it here, make it triangular here and on this side, on both sides, and then you can see about the middle. It's where you're gonna cut, and then you can always adjust. Once you put the ears attaching, you can adjust the size also. But they have kind of long ears. You can see it on this picture here. Look how long the ears are. So, but you don't have to have it so realistic. You can make it any size you want. I believe on this one I made it a little shorter. On this one here I made it a little longer, so you can use your creativity. I want to use something that is this part right here, that comes almost like a little spoon, so to make that indent on the ear like that. And same thing here on this one. Like that. And then I can check it out and see, it's way too big. So what I will do is stretch it a little more and cut it with my X-Acto knife. So I will cut it about that much. And then I'll do the same thing on the other one, because it was way too long. And then you try to see, you know, something to look the same. I'm gonna cut it right there. And then you can stretch it a little. I think that's good enough. So because the clay is so wet still, I don't need to score. All I'm gonna do here is wet it a little. And maybe make a little indent of where I want it to go, right there and right here. And then you can use this or the wooden tool or a dowel or anything to make that joint smooth. And then on the back, I usually curve that joint there where the ears joins with the head, like so. And then same thing here. To make it deeper inside, that's the tool I'm using. There. Just gonna wet it a little bit. Same thing on the other side. I don't know if I am getting the chat, if it's on or not, because I'm using my laptop this time. Usually on my phone it says on or off, so I don't know if you guys have any questions. Let me see. Just a second here. Let me see if it's on. It says it's on, but I don't see. Chat. Says chat is on, but I don't see it. I need to figure out when I use my laptop how to do the live chat. Let me see here. Oh, now I see it. Hey, Sean. Let's see. You know what, guys? Let me... I think I got it now where I see the chat. Let me change my glasses here. Oh, the lighting is a bit dark. Okay, sorry. So I'm sitting behind, so my camera is, I have it where the window is behind me. And I was thinking that maybe that was a good lighting, but next time I'll put the light right behind me and see if that works a little better. Hi, Shiat Ceramics. Hi. Hi, Misty. Oh, you're not getting the notice, the notification. I'll look into that and let you know. I wonder if it is like you have to hit the bell. I know on YouTube that's what you do, but I'm not sure on Facebook. So I'll find that out for you. Sorry about that. Let's see. Anyways, now I can see the chats. So anyways, guys, this is basically the head of the fox. So you can see quite a bit bigger than what I had, but it will shrink. Same thing with that one. And what I said before, on my next luminary that I make, it's gonna be taller. So, and I will show how I do that, how I make this. So it will be a bigger piece with a bigger, larger fox. That's why I wanted to make a larger one also. So, and again, this is too rough, and I will tell you, I will show you how I smooth everything out. So now to the body part. Again, you start making almost like a cone shape, and like I said, I think it is about 2 inches. It will get bigger because you're gonna make almost like a pinch pot. So I'll start by just making a hole here inside. The last one I did, I put my finger inside and it got stuck in the clay because the clay was too wet. So I let the clay, just leave it out for a little bit. If your clay you think is too sticky and wet, just let it like in the open air, and it will dry a little bit, enough for you to manipulate a little bit better. So kind of like a pinch pot, because I make things that are hollow, because if you don't, it will take forever to dry. And also when you attach to other things, you want to make it so it's almost the same thickness, so you don't have the cracking issue. But the main issue is for drying too, because if it was solid, it would take forever, and most likely sometimes you feel like it is dry, bone dry, but it's not. And that's how things explode in the kiln. So now I make everything hollow and I never have any problems. Even my sculpted mugs that I make, it has no holes. All my creatures I make, they don't explode and they don't have any holes. So I think it is a myth that people think if you don't put a hole, you will explode. what makes it explode is the moisture on the clay. So just make sure everything is bone dry before you bisque fire. So anyways, once you have this shape, almost like a cone, because this will be where the head is going to attach. In fact, what I usually do is I elongate that part a little bit like this, but I'll do that later on. Just showing you a little bit here of what the shape is going to be. So for the back, you determine what the back will be and where the front of your body is going to be. So for the back, you start curving almost like the curvature of the fox right here. So that's part of the body right here, her bottom right here, and then the top of the body will be more having a curvature like that because she's sitting. You see what I mean? So when they sit, it has that curve from the spine right here going to the bottom right there. So once you determine that, I might be removing some clay too. If you feel like the body or the head is not in proportion to each other, then you can start either removing or adding clay. You see here I'm elongating because by doing that I could remove the clay from the top here. So all I'm doing here is smoothing, and at the same time I'm holding inside with my finger here and almost like pushing this part over here to make that curve. So like that. So now the opposite side will be the front. So the front, I'm gonna squeeze just a little bit here to mark where the two legs, the front legs are. So they're straight legs on the front. So I'm just kind of marking where the front legs would be, like that. Just so you have your back and your front. Okay. So now that you have your back and the front, on each side, you're going to mark kind of like where the leg, let me explain this by showing you the picture here. So you're going to be marking that, which is the back leg, making that curve. We don't have to show that much detail, but I just like to make that part stick out a little bit so you know that that's the back legs on that sitting position. So anyways, you have the mark for the front legs, but you don't have the mark for the back legs yet. And that's what we're gonna do here now. So it kind of goes like that, and then the foot kind of goes. So then by putting your finger inside, holding it, and then removing some of this clay right here, you're making that stick out. And you can also push a little bit from the inside out. this is the one of the legs, and then the other leg. Let's see. Would be here. And then you push the clay in for that negative space. I don't make a hole to separate the front legs, but I push the clay enough that when you paint it, you can make this area really dark, and that gives the illusion of that it's separated. You know, the two legs are apart when they really aren't. They are just still everything attached, just creates kind of like an illusion there. Now I'm removing a little bit of the clay to make the same legs here. I hope you're starting to see here the difference on the back legs. I'm gonna wet it a little to smooth everything out. You can push the body in here a little bit more. Push it here a little bit more. So this is what it looks like from the back. So it's starting to take shape. Hi Kathleen, I'm just looking at your message here. Yeah, I don't know why sometimes people don't get a notification. Maybe I need to do just put a post whenever I'm gonna do a live. Maybe that's what I would do. That way it will notify you exactly the time and everything. So I'm trying a new setup here with the new camera, and I know it's a little bit dark. Next time I will put a light behind me. I thought that just having the window would be enough, but apparently it's still kind of dark. But the camera, it's supposed to be one of the best cameras for live streaming. And I'm still learning. There's so many settings. Like I spent days now just learning on the settings for live stream. So I'm trying to make everything better. So if you guys just hang on with me and until I get everything just right. It takes time when you're learning something new. Also the streaming software that I use so I can stream live from YouTube and Facebook at the same time has also a learning curve because it's an open source app. So as you know, anytime you use like an open source, they're not very intuitive. So what I did here, I just separated where the two legs will go. Actually, before that, I'm going to push the chest out a little bit to protrude more. So all I'm doing is pushing my finger inside here, and On the next video, when this is a little bit more dry, I will show you how we're really going to carve this area to show that, you know, the white fur that protrudes out on the chest. So that's what I was doing here, just to prepare for the next time you know, when it's leather hard is when I do the carving. So I will do another live video for that. So now I'm pushing the legs in. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water just to push this whole part in. And it's going in quite deep. So all I'm doing is pushing, and then this part here. And I push the clay down so that it makes that the paw of the fox. As you can see, all I'm doing is, as you're pushing the clay, you adding more clay here at the bottom, and you just curve kind of like this to make the part of the front paw. So I don't have anything detached. Everything on the body is all attached. So it's when you're painting that you create all that. Like here, it will look like there is a hole there when there isn't one. It's all attached. So it's just I do it that way because usually you attach your fox somewhere. And to me, it's easier when it's all together to have all the attachment on the bottom here. So I leave everything kind of together, connected. And I'm just right now making his paw here. And the same thing here, I'm going to make that indent a little bit more pronounced. So if you look at a picture in the real world, I guess, there would be a hole in here that you would see the body coming down, the legs would be out, the body here would be a hole. So I'm pushing this part in. Again, you could just do a cutout if you wanted to, but I leave everything together. So, and because I usually put the tail towards one side, you can either make the tail come up or you can make the tail come around the body. You don't have to spend so much time in one side because it will cover this area. So maybe spend a little more time in one side but not on the other, if you know what I mean. You would save some time. So just cleaning up these a little bit. So as you can see, this was just pushed in. And then later on you can clean this up a little bit more, making the little paws the way you want it. Hey Misty, yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I don't like to detach anything. I like to leave everything attached to the body and just kind of create an illusion. That's my thing, my way of thinking, that way you're not going through all that, you know, afraid of cracking, or this is all one piece. So when you're looking like that, you can see that's the back legs. We're gonna refine this area later on when we do the carving. And here, so what I do, I still don't like how the legs, I think you can push the legs a little bit because I want the chest to be kind of protruding out. So I am pushing the legs in now a little bit, as you can see. So this is the part that you can do all the tweaking. And let's see. So you have to look front, sideways. We're going to probably add some more clay when I'm ready to carve, just to kind of look like, you know, the fur in the front here. Let me show you. Kind of like, let's see if I can. You see how it has a lot of fur on the front chest here, and that's, we accomplished that on the leather hard stage. So let's see. You always want to put your head with the body now to see the scale. So maybe the body is a little bit taller. So I'm gonna just take off a little bit of the neck here. And all I'm doing is stretching and pulling it. And then I can see. I think it's good, the scale. So now is the part that I carve from here. So I let, as you know, I had the head sitting, so it's a little bit stiffer than when I was doing it. Ideally, you want to let it sit for a little longer, so when you carve inside, you're not kind of pushing and deforming the head. So I hope I can do it without deforming it. You carve, like I said, my idea of carving is so that it dries evenly and it has a chance of dry completely without exploding in the kiln. It will dry much quicker than if you leave it as a solid piece. So you can use any carving tool, anything like that that has a loop at the end. You can use something like this by kind of going around. Even my frogs, I make them hollow, unless they're very tiny. But I've learned now to hollow everything. It works. So I just keep making everything hollow. Okay, so I did deform the face just slightly. You can always push it back to shape again. So let me just see if I need to carve any more. I think it's about right. I think I messed the eye a little bit. You can make 1 year go down, you know, it doesn't have to be there both years exactly the same. Okay, so now I'm going to just wet it a little bit in here. Like I said, because the clay is wet, I'm not worried about scoring I'm going to put a little bit of this clay right by the neck to fill in like a coil around. Maybe the head is slightly larger, I think, but that's okay. I'm just taking the pieces of clay I just removed to fill in. Thank you, Kathleen. I like to do the carving part, and you know, when it's leather hard is when you can really make something come to life, because you add a lot of the details. You can refine the eyes. You can start carving the fur. So until you get there, it still looks a little rough. But you see how I'm using different tools. If you have any carving tool at home, I would say don't go buying, you know, expensive tools, because I think for the main part I use my fingers. So as you can see, it's much taller. This is one that I made earlier that is a little bit shorter. I'll show you. And this one I haven't, actually I haven't done the attaching the head yet. I will. Just so we have like different sizes of foxes now. You see how this one, I think I made the ears a lot shorter, even though they do have kind of like big ears compared to their body, to the head. So it's up to you when you're making it. Just look at, you know, how it's shaping up to be, and you can use your own judgment how you want the ears to be. So the tail is more like a, almost like a flame of a candle. So it's wider here, and then it goes to a point. And then the way I like to do is curve it. I do have another tutorial of a fox that I have laying down, sleeping. It's a lot easier, but I think I went through the whole thing like with the pieces of the parts. And then on the tail, I show the same way. I do kind of curve. And then when it's leather hard, I carve, you know, to show the fur. So the way I do it, you can do the tail in different ways. So if you wanted the tail to be up, kind of like this, you can make it go around the body like that. Actually, this one is a little bit big, but so you decide how you want the tail to be. So since this will be attached to something like maybe my luminary, I don't know, maybe this one I will put it up. Let's see, maybe like this. Every time I make, I tend to kind of make it going around. Oops. Like this. But this time I think I'm gonna put it up. So, and it's a little bit large, so I'm going to cut maybe by this much. And you curve it because you want to attach from here. Yeah, so now it's better. So this is the one that I already had it done. It's not refined yet. I just did it before because I thought I would show you the different parts, but I did it on this one anyway. So anyways, I think this one is about right. I'm gonna make it like that. So all I'm gonna do, because it's still wet, I'm gonna make sure everything is wet here where it's going to attach, and then curve it all the way to the very end, the very bottom here, and then it's coming from right from the middle. So now I'm going to make sure it's well attached there. And just put a little bit more water here. Oh, hi, Joanna. The clay that I'm using is by Kentucky Mud Works, is Iceman. Iceman is a great clay for hand building and sculpting, even though it doesn't have grog, but it attaches. This clay is like magic. It attaches like any other clay that I've ever used. So I also use not Iceman, but White Bear by Kentucky Mud Works. For small sculptures like this, I can use pretty much any clay. I don't have problems with cracking or anything like that. Once I get to the bigger sculptures, like when I do my birds and they're much bigger, like maybe 8-10 inches, I use a clay that has grog in it. So I've used B-mix with grog, and also a clay called Soldate that has grog. So basically any clay that has grog would be good for sculpting. For bigger, larger sculptures. For something this small, I don't, worry as much to make something with grog. But if you do hand building, I do suggest you use, I don't do much hand building myself, but it is a great clay for hand building. Like I'll show you the piece that will be the part 2. Anyways, this is White Bear that I did earlier. This is Iceman. You see how you can't almost tell the difference, except that Iceman is the one that I said is good for hand building. It's a little bit darker. White Bear is the whitest stoneware that I've ever used, even trying several now. It's the whitest one, and not being porcelain, because I also use porcelain, but it's a really white, nice clay for throwing, not so good for hand building. Iceman, great for hand building. So when I did this, I use Iceman, which is a little forest luminary where this clay, the fox, will sit. This was just a test piece. I am gonna make a larger one, and that's gonna be part 2. I will show you how I carve, how I throw without the bottom to make different shapes, and how I attach the bottom here, and then we can talk about how I glaze this. I probably won't show glazing, but I can talk about it and show all the glazes that I used. So that would be on part 2. I might do, I will do maybe a short in between, or maybe another video in between, to show how I carve and add all the fine details on this on the fox that we just did. So this one already has the tail. You see how her tail is kind of a little fatter here, and then goes into a point, and you just curve it to attach at the end. Maybe this one I will put her tail coming around like this one here. So anyways, I'm glad I finally saw the chat, and I'm sorry that I'm still learning this software that I'm using now and a new camera. So I hope that you will get better with time. And Misty, I will find out how you can get notifications, or like I said, I think I will post something before, like a picture of what I'm gonna be doing, and that way you guys will see what's coming for my live videos. So I will be doing more live videos just because editing videos takes a long time, so I like doing lives more, and that way you guys can interact with me more and ask questions. So thanks for being here, guys, and hope to see you on the next one.